So welcome to Philadelphia Walks PTSD. My name is Sharon Cole, or Sharon, or Cole, whatever you want to refer to me as in a good way. I don't care. I've been called everything under the sun: rat, pig, squirrel, horse, dog, hamster, gerbil, I don't know, anything. Don't know what it means. Even half the people I realized who think they know what it means might not even have the right definition. Everybody has to be badass. Everybody has to be part of a gang. Everybody has to be part of a secret club. Everybody has to do this. Everybody has to do that. And yeah, it's really boring. So anyway, today is 69, the 69th day of my one video each day, 365 days, asking for donations, big and small, short and tall, from people with deep pockets who totally understand what I'm talking about, or from people who have experienced things and they don't have they might not have I really don't want to ask money, for donations from people who are suffering. I wouldn't do that. I actually want to get money from people who are perpetrators, and if we can trick the universe into making them wind up having to pay me, that would be totally that would be totally awesome. It wouldn't be a trick. It would be like they would have to not realize that they're paying the very person who they were targeting to begin with. That is hilarious. So anyway, I will do my usual rigmarole, and sorry that I'm not a perfect little, perfect, well-behaved little girl who comes on here and has the phone voice of, hello, this is Gail speaking from DCA. And then, we will get into the show in a minute, because there's different levels of the show, and people are forced to play roles, and they don't even realize, they may not even realize that they're a Dolly per se. So like Dolly Parton I actually see her as being in a very empowered position of showing just how bad the show is in America. They even gave her the name Dolly Parton, or she decided to have the name Dolly Parton, because Dolly. And how many, sadly, a lot of people, musicians would be a big arena, politicians, another arena. Lately, I've seen a lot of social workers, they're putting on a show for someone else, and they're being used like puppets. It's disturbing. Oh my God. And we don't even want to get into, this is a touchy subject, but it starts to get really weird, because I was part of the LGBT. I don't belong to any community at this point. I'm an independent person. I will not be a separatist and identify with a community. Ha! Got ya! So see how I just did that? There are people out there who have to have 500 million titles, right? Now we're going to come up with this new definition. Now we're going to come up, and it's all about power control, power control, power control, or who's being puppeted. If you don't even identify with any group, then you're not a separatist. If you decide to identify with a specific group, technically you're alienating other people and yourself and limiting your options. So anyway, but anyway, we'll go back to the exciting content here, which is I was made to believe I'd be murdered the fourth Monday of January 2011. It's very serious. That was a show. It's like Will Ferrell had to turn it into a comedy in order for people to see how bad the show is in America. Right. And Dolly has Dollywood. She is showing that people are used and abused in the worst way possible to satisfy some other jerk-offs, some disgusting, gross circus man's agenda. You get it? Wood like a puppet, like Howdy Doody, or you get it? And a Dolly, and women, no offense, but women tend to be easier to puppet and manipulate because they're more easily intimidated. They're more easily pushed around. We live in a patriarchal society. It is not a matriarchal society. So we live in a world and particularly in the United States and most places around the world, where men technically run the show. There are a lot of men who are used, and I just quickly deferred to the music industry because it's a machine out there. Look at Prince. And when did Prince pass away? On Queen Elizabeth's birthday. And how sick is it that he was on an elevator going down? Wasn't that part of his lyrics? That's how messed up it is. Don't let the elevator take you down. Oh. You get it? And they say they found his body on an elevator, in the elevator of his compound that he had where? Minneapolis. In Paisley Park, just outside Minneapolis. When the George Floyd trial was going on, who passed away? Queen Elizabeth's husband. It seems like a tit for tat. There's some sort of war going on here, back and forth. So anyway, but back to the show that must have been orchestrated, set up, and rehearsed by other people to scare the shit out of me. And I don't care that I say SHIT on here. I know I'm a very high-class person, and I was tortured so badly that people are lucky that's all that's coming out. So that is a show of epic proportions. To even have neighbors conveniently missing, and in the Middle East, no less, the night that I was terrorized. And then the games commenced after that. All those people are they're all part of a show. They're all puppets. Everyone who participated is basically a puppet, and they thought they were in control. No, the show is so good. The show is so good that they can make people think that they're in control when really someone else is in control. There's always someone higher. So I wanted to go through a few examples, because after I was made to believe I'd be murdered in my apartment, then the games commenced, and there were orchestrated skits, if you will, used to mind F or mind fuck. There were, mind games in general, all kinds of scare tactics, anything to drive someone crazy or what have you. Things would be synced up, and too many things would happen coincidentally. But I'll stick with the show example here, because it still goes on, but on a much lower scale, but it still messes with the brain. So the first night was a major show. Yesterday, I encountered a show, and that would be, and it was kind of a more obvious one, because sometimes a show could be less obvious, because you're like, who did this? Who's getting a dog to hump my leg every day, practically yank down my pants? The dog, to me, started to look like someone I'd met in Florida. That's a show. But yesterday, I'm walking the same dog home up a street where he lives, and there were too many people out on the streets. It's a very specific block here in Philadelphia. And it's funny, because back in the day, I used to think, oh God, I don't want to walk down that block, because they put on too many shows. I wouldn't have thought of it in that term. I just thought, oh, this is an annoying block for some reason. And sure enough, I'm walking back, because I keep hoping to have a quiet walk with this dog. I need the money, so I can't really pass it up, right? So coming back, and there were 2 or 3 different clusters or groups of at least 4 or 5 people on this little short block. It's a block that runs north and south. It's intermittent, so you won't find it everywhere in the city. It's like, oh, it shows up here, it shows up there, and so forth and so on. And right on time, then someone comes out of the door across the way with a treat, and there's a neighbor who likes to offer treats to this dog, which, without permission per se. But technically, you're supposed to be like, oh, isn't that so nice that he's offering a treat? But what if you don't want your dog to have treats because the dog is overweight? In this case, the dog is kind of overweight. In fact, someone brought it up like, oh gosh, don't you think they really need to put him on a diet? Because he's a little too heavy for his breed, any breed, but it's an issue. So he comes out, just like, it's either Groundhog's Day or just like the Truman Show, running out. The thing is, the owner of the dog actually, or one of, because this is a married couple, one of, the mom of this particular dog, she actually wound up in the ER with stitches, a huge gash across her forehead. And in the healing process, her eyes, all the blood came up towards her eyes or what have you. So it looked like, it would be like the old school days of who punched you in the face, who punched but technically she just fell. and scuffed up like her hands and her forehead. They had to put stitches in it because the same guy was offering a treat. So the show is dangerous. It's not funny. Oh, we just do this because I don't even know why they do it. It is actually dangerous, and it actually causes possible murder and dismemberment. I am so not kidding how bad this is. So when I see a show going on like I did yesterday, my PTSD gets triggered right quick. And I'm kind of mumbling to myself, but I'm basically calling everybody a jackass. In a way, I'm exposing what they're doing. Another show would be my mom would pass away in July of 2020, then my dad in December of 2020. Then in April of 2021, my aunt wound up in the hospital, and I would show up to visit her when they put her into hospice care, but in the hospital. They kept her there as opposed to bringing her home. Probably because I was living at the home and it was just easier. Anyway, it's a whole thing because my sister and our mom came back to the home of where she was living and went through hospice there as opposed to being in the hospital. I just think that my mom thought that I think she thought she would be returning home. So the idea that she would never get to return back to the house. Anyway, but when I would show up to visit my aunt in hospice care, I walk in, I kind of noticed that there was someone sitting bedside with her. And like, it seemed like I couldn't tell if she was like holding her hand or whatever, or had like paperwork. I thought it would be like a nurse or something, like a special person who comes around to tend to patients. I didn't even notice at first that it was actually my cousin's wife. And for some reason, I didn't see her at all for some reason. Like I couldn't see that it was her. It's kind of a weird phenomenon. Why couldn't I? Because she had to say, Sharon, it's me. Why couldn't I see that it was her? Because that is a show. Big time. Big time. I was like, what? There is someone sitting, acting as if she were the actual daughter of someone, but also acting as if she were that sincere of a person or cared that much. Technically, she's the daughter-in-law. That scene was way off. I don't even know where to begin. On top of that, it gets weird. There was a woman in there from the community hospice she came in like to fix bed sheets or whatever. And apparently somewhere along the line, they had discussed this woman possibly singing a song to help her feel better. That's a show already. And the toss-up, it was between two songs. One of them would have been Amazing Grace. My cousin and his wife, the woman who was sitting there acting as if she was this, very sincere. These are people who ignore emails and phone calls and people who are unavailable. And all of a sudden we look like we care. But anyway, they have an adopted child named Grace. So anyway, so I just got a heart palpitation, which would seem like a threat, like the universe saying, be careful because they actually try to kill people. They won't succeed because my people are higher. And these are all, everybody's white. So even the adopted child is technically white. I think she's kind of in I don't know where she comes from, but but the woman singing, they decided they'd sing Amazing Grace because that's the name of their adopted but it's the name of their adopted child. So my aunt is laying there. She didn't really open her eyes a lot, but I feel like there was a lot of imposition and a lot of hurt put on this person who was dying as she's entering death. Amazing Grace saved a wretch like me is what they're singing to the grandmother of this adopted child. How do you feel about that? That is a show. That is sick. Even in death, they had to impose the show on someone. It actually hurt me to see this happen because something's wrong. It's either they're so puppeted or they're part of a sadistic group of people that actually has to glom on and behave in a certain way. My aunt wouldn't have known that she was being used, per se. It's hard to explain. It's sort of, I actually read books about how people become real and this and that way back in the day. I actually went through a certain process of like, what is this whole thing like, why is there something wrong in the world? And I can recall when I was younger, calling into my mom where she worked, and she had to have what they call a phone voice. The thing is, it was so much of a phone voice. It's that super pleasant thing. The secretary has to behave like a good secretary for all her male bosses. That's how deeply embedded this idea is in many women, even still today. And I'm sure there are men also. I'm supposed to be like this in order to appease my superiors. The thing is, it forces people into a fake and oppressed situation. It's bizarre, at the very least. To witness certain people projecting so hard, that it's a projection. I have to act like this today. And then it's all timed. I'm thinking, oh, I'll show up in this time period-ish. Then my cousin comes into the hospital room at 3:00 and he's doing something with his hands like this, as if he needed to pretend he was a doctor. The problem is, if they think they're doing something special for some reason, the problem is they're still pulling the rug out from people. They're technically stealing money. You would have to be a very smart and sincere person to realize how much money these people stole by making sure, oh wait, we need this person here, 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 this person here. Then we can benefit the most from a larger plot of land and a larger home that my sister and our mom put into it more than my aunt, because my aunt lived off of Social Security check from her second husband and lived many years off of her first husband while my mom had to work all those years. So we have a lot of people who learned how to sponge off of other people. Even they learned how to sponge. There was more sponging and I'll give one more show. When I was younger and finally had a car, and this is like high school into college, and I worked half a day and went to high school half a day for my last 2 years, I would show up to my dad's, and my dad and my stepbrother, and nobody's biological here. My dad and I are biological. Everybody else is a step. My sister is also the biological daughter. So my dad lived in a house with no biological people. They were out there, passing a football or playing ball, like a commercial, like some sort of, commercial for Zantax or whatever. But when I pulled up, it hurt me when I pulled up. It pulled up to see this because the sincerity was missing. It was more about the intention. They wanted my dad out there while I pulled up to hurt me. I'd never done anything to anyone in my life. They grew up learning how to hurt people. That's it. They hurt people so that they can keep taking. They take so much that you're like, I can't even be around these people. Perfect for them, because that means I look like the one who didn't love dad enough and therefore won't be placed appropriately in the will category. That's how it works. That is a major show. So anyway, I'm kind of tired of the circus clowns and the losers who need to put on shows. I was really aggravated yesterday after walking this dog and having to walk through a whole bunch of people. It's one thing, then people would say, oh, you need to be more so. You should be more nice. You should be nicer to people. Fuck you. If you are raped, if people keep putting on you and telling you what you should be smarter. You know what? You should get a degree. You know what? You should stop saying should. You should stop taking money from other people. You should learn how to be more independent and less hive-minded. You're not part of a gang. I can't believe that of all the people who have money, that some of the people without money are actually better people. I consider myself better than all the people I just mentioned. I know I'm a better person. These people are thieves. They force homelessness on people. They hurt people, and they think that's how they win in the game of life. Well, I can sleep at night, and I know that whenever that day comes many years from now, when I'm on my deathbed, I don't have to worry. They do. Okay, there's a show for you. Okay, have a good day. And I'm a real person. They will never be. You're too dumb.